Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you, and welcome to Islam in Life with me, Tariq Ramadan, broadcasting from London. Today's show asked the question, who is Geert Wilders?
The Netherlands, a peaceful liberal oasis, once renowned as the most tolerant country in Europe. Enter Geert Wilders, the firebrand of Dutch politics. Wilders and his Dutch Freedom Party break from other Dutch right-wing parties with their hardline stance on immigrant integration into Dutch society, especially Muslims. Wilders wants to stop Muslim integration into the Netherlands. Indeed, he sees the Holy Quran as a fascist book and has likened it to Hitler's Mein Kampf. In 2008, he released a short film, Fitna, which describes Islam as a terrorist faith that encourages anti-Semitism and violence against women. In 2009, Wilders was invited to the House of Lords to show his film, but was banned from entering the UK by the Home Office on grounds of public security. Back in Holland, he's now on trial and stands accused of spreading hatred against Muslims. And polls taken last year indicate that the Freedom Party may take a fifth of the national vote at the next general election. Some analysts believe that in such circumstances, Wilders would hold so much political power that he could even end up as the next Dutch Prime Minister. The British ban and the court case have actually boosted Wilders' popularity in the Netherlands by allowing him to cultivate an image as a fighter for free speech. But this can't account for all of his popularity. Have a few fanatics really overturned the so-called Dutch tolerant spirit? Or do the Islamic roots of the Freedom Party tap into something deeper in Dutch society?
Yes, what is happening in the Netherlands and what is the situation now? For years we have been heard and understanding that this society, it's a liberal society, open, tolerant for all the cultures, all the religions. And this is a self-perception. If you go to the Netherlands and you talk to the people, the perception is we are a liberal society, we are open. And still, what we have now is a movement which is a populist movement. Some are saying even a far-right party, or some even are using the word fascist, speaking about Geert Wilders and what is happening. He's not the only one. The rhetoric about Islam and Islam perceived as an alien religion, or Muslims perceived as colonizers from within who are threatening the very essence of the Dutch culture. This is the questions that we have now, and it's as if all the other political parties are responding in a way which is quite shy, not strong, not even responding to the question, and sometimes supporting some of the questions. These are critical questions, and this is a very important country, in fact, because what is happening in the Netherlands is also being perceived in other European countries. Is it also a European phenomenon? So I would ask this question and try for us here in this program to try to understand what is happening, who is Geert Wilders, but also a broader question about the Dutch society and the European future for not only the Muslims but all the citizens. So to answer all these questions, I am joined by Dr. Carool, Kersten, lecturer in Islamic Studies at King's College London. Carool, thank you for being with us today. You have watched the clip with me, and all the questions. I have been in the Netherlands for the last 2 years and trying to work at the grassroots level with people. Lots of goodwill, people who want really to change the situation and to be open to the people. And at the same time, the first movement, which gained more important rate during the last election, the best improvement is coming from Geert Wilders during the last European election. So what is happening? Do you qualify, for example, the Netherlands as today a liberal country?
I still like to think that that can still be said, yeah. But I think Geert Wilders is indeed emblematic for some dramatic changes we have seen on the Dutch political scene in the last 10 years, probably. The existing political configurations, which had been in place for decades, has been completely changed in that period of time, and I think Geert Wilders really personifies that.
Can you explain this? Why this change during over the last 10 years? Is it after September 11th, or is it because immigration? Is it because of a concern towards security?
I think it's a complex of factors. I mean, Geert Wilders made a name for himself already before 9/11. I think he plays on three issues. The first one is that he really likes to position himself as somebody who is challenging the political establishment. Although he started his career in one of the existing parties, it's called the Liberal Party, but you can better compare it with the Tories in the UK if you want to look what kind of political agendas they represent. That, I think, is his key appeal. People have seen always the same three parties in government coalitions basically since World War II. And Geert Wilders is a sort of challenging the inward-looking, self-satisfied attitudes of a lot of the existing political parties. Secondly, the issue of emigration is a matter of concern in the last 3-4 decades. But what Wilders is doing is conflating that with the issue of Islam. And there, of course, he was helped also by developments on the international scene, and in particular dramatic events like 9/11, 7/7 here, things in Southeast Asia, developments in the Caucasus and what have you, sort of serve his argument that Islam as a religion is projected as this sinister entity, and he sort of conflates that with immigration issues, which are more of a socio-economic and perhaps also of a cultural dimension. The third thing he tries to do is that by challenging the political establishment and making statements that would in the present climate be considered politically correct, by dressing that up as exercising free speech. That is exactly the argument he's making, and that finds a very willing audience also in the Netherlands, and that's also what the trial is about. He doesn't position himself there as somebody who is being accused of spreading hatred in society. He turns it actually around and says, this is my free speech that is at issue here.
Yes, and I think that even here, you know, in the UK, he was banned from entering. I was myself against this because I think that it plays exactly.
It only drew more attention.
Exactly, that this is what he wants. He wants to say, I am the victim, and look, with the Muslim presence, what we have now is less freedom. Yeah. While at the same time, he's clearly trying to target the Muslims in a way which is a racist way. In his movie, he played with the media into something which was quite interesting. For 6 months, we were told the movie is coming, the movie Fitna is coming. And then he was keeping the media waiting, and he avoided here something which was quite important. To just to target the Muslims, or to throw or to tear the Quran, saying that this is the book that we have to stop. He avoided this, but he alluded to this. I think that he knows how to play with the media, but this is what is the reality in our liberal societies, is the relationship between the media coverage, and someone who knows exactly, as a populist, how to play with the media.
Well, I think that's a correct observation, and indeed the whole hype around fitna sort of indicates that Geert Wilders has a superb political instinct. If you look at his background, he's a bit like a chameleon. I mean, people also in the Netherlands started investigating his background. Where did he suddenly come from in the 90s as a firebrand member first of the Liberal faction in Parliament, and then as an independent member, and now with his new party. In the 80s, he was known as somebody who was very much to the left, which was a sort of the political flavor at the time. Plus, indeed, he knows exactly how to use PR and media. Like what you said about fitna, it's definitely a correct observation. He fed the media about that he was going to make this extremely controversial film, and then it's basically 15 minutes of cut and paste of existing media coverage, and it almost was anticlimactic, I think.
Yes, and I think that there is something which is quite important. If we look at what is happening at the same time, if you look at the grassroots level, you have more and more, for example, Dutch Muslim citizens being elected, being present, being more visible. Even one of the major cities in the Netherlands now has a Moroccan by origin Dutch Muslim mayor. It's Abu Talib. And by the way, it's quite interesting because his own, way of talking about the Muslim presence is quite, he is very close to Sarkozy. He's saying, like it or leave it. If you like the country, you stay. If you don't like it, go back to your country. So he is the first mayor, and there is something which is the new visibility of Muslims, and at the same time you have this coming, which is a paradoxical situation. So what is really the point? How do you analyze this, and in which we understand what is happening in the country?
Yeah, that's also the reason why I'm not too pessimistic about indeed the situation in the Netherlands at present with respect to the tolerance of different ethnic groups in the country. It's basically the conflation for political gain of Geert Wilders that has polarized the situation. But the various communities and immigrants that have joined Dutch society over the last 30, 40, 50 years even, is so diverse and different that making these kind of generalizations are incorrect. As you said, some people from the Moroccan descent, Turkish descent have made it into politics. A lot of them are successful in business. Numerous Moroccans, second generation, are making even an impact in the cultural scene. They win literary prizes and things like that. So that contrasts starkly indeed with sort of the agenda Geert Wilders is driven, which mainly feeds in international issues rather than local issues. Although
Explain that. This is a very important point. Why are you saying that?
Geert Wilders put sort of Islam on the political map in the Netherlands in the late 90s when he was interested in foreign policy and basically challenged Dutch foreign policy, Western policy in general, of being complacent towards developments in the Muslim world rather than anywhere else. Although it might have an impact on the local immigrant populations, and there were some incidents with certain mosques in big cities, Islamic schools which were tolerated under the education system but which were struggling in keeping up academic standards and things like that. All this fed into his argument, and then of course things like in 2001 and 2005 only sort of seemed to corroborate what Wilders stood for. But it's an oversimplification, and I mean, in the 70s we had also immigrants coming in from our former colonies in the West Indies in even larger numbers than Moroccans and Turks, which created also problems, not in the religious sphere, but definitely also in the cultural and economic sphere.
Yeah, so it's not new, as you are saying.
No,
it's not
I don't
new.
think
But
so.
the problem is that yesterday we were talking about Surinamese, we were talking about people by their country name, the origin, the geographical origin. Now we are speaking about the religion. We are saying they are all Muslims. And this is one thing which is, you know, a transnational phenomenon in Europe, and that he's using this. He's saying they are coming in every country. This is a reality. And straight, the first to react to the ban of the minarets in Switzerland was Geert Wilders, saying this is exactly what we have to do. We have to just go and follow in the footsteps of the Swiss, because what we want is no visibility of these Muslims who are colonizing the country. So there is something that you are saying which is quite important, international and local politics.
Yeah, and he conflates these things in a very clever fashion. Of course there are certain developments internationally which may have a spillover in the Netherlands and even catch on with people who are dissatisfied for whatever reason, that, you know, the expectations they had when they moved to the Netherlands did not materialize. It's mainly second generation people who feel probably mostly uprooted. They have to be Moroccan at home and Dutch the moment they step out of the front door. But the origins of these problems have nothing to do with religion per se. I think they have to do with how integration was perceived in the early stages. And that was basically signaled already by a very perceptive columnist, I think in the late 90s, Paul Schroeder, when things started to, you know, tensions started to breed, in particular in deprived areas in the bigger cities like Rotterdam, Amsterdam and Utrecht, where there was also a white underclass who was facing challenges in the socio-economic sphere of immigrants.
Yes, I think it's quite important. Yes, immigration is an issue. We cannot just deny that. But there is something which is quite important. You know, when I was there working with the municipality in Rotterdam, I said, you know, I was talking about citizenship and diversity. I said, let us avoid focusing on religion, because it's not a religious issue. We have to speak about education. We have to speak about job market and what is happening. We also have to speak about the media coverage, because it's problematic. The way you are, moving the picture or the perception towards, oh, it's a religious matter, while it's a socio-economic reality that we are facing. So, and it's very difficult to make this understandable, because the perception is, oh, the visibility of this alien culture and alien religion. But let me ask you a question on this. You know about your own country. How do you qualify or label, understand Geert Wilders? Is he a populist? And populism is working now in Europe. Is he a far-right or extreme right party, or representing a far-right party? How would you describe what is happening in the Netherlands? Because this could help also understanding what is happening in other countries.
I would struggle with that, because, as I said, he challenges the existing political landscape and configurations, and it's very difficult to pigeonhole Geert Wilders in that sense. He's definitely a populist in the sense that he has political instinct and knows how to play the media game and get his message across.
Yes,
He's definitely very good at that. And it has even been recognized by the political press. Friend and foe have awarded him prizes as Politician of the Year, not because of the views he represents, but the way he plays the game. He's superb at it. Other things like far right, he definitely positions himself indeed as a more conservative, he calls it liberal, truly liberal party, alternative party to the party he used to belong to, VVD, the Party for Freedom and Democracy, whom he thinks has been pandering too much to the center, D66 and the Labour Party. So he sees himself as representing truly liberal views, but on the political spectrum, he would definitely be on a very conservative side, in particular with respect to economic policies and things like that. But he translates everything into a cultural agenda. He's playing at. Yeah.
But even with foreign policy, there is a problem with him when once we tried to have a kind of a debate, which was supporting, for example, Israel and importing the situation with Israel with him by saying, I am supporting the Israeli right, as if his own Dutch citizens and Muslim citizens were by definition as if anti-Semitic, and he was playing with this dimension, which is problematic, and especially in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I believe that has only thrown oil on the fire. He has never made a secret of the fact that he admires Israel. He spent 2 years there after he came out of high school, and is known to have made statements that he felt really at home there.
Yeah.
So, of course, the very difficult political situations in the Middle East get connected in that way, and I think that is what he is so good in. He connects issues that are in themselves complex enough, multi-layered, and then basically conflates these into this sinister plot that is there to undermine Dutch society as we know it.
Exactly, with very simplistic statements, but it works by saying it's us and them, it's black and white, it's these Muslims against us, our culture, and then we are the liberal, they are the dogmatic, and they are the fundamentalists. So I think that this binary vision
but the problem is indeed more, I would say it's more cultural actually than religious, if you want to put a sort of a sticker on it. And the commentator I mentioned earlier, Paul Schröder, when he sort of signaled these things in a much more analytical and subdued manner, also did a bit of introspection and self-reflection. He said the Netherlands indeed has always prided itself, as you started out telling us, that we have this reputation of tolerance.
Yes.
Schröder pointed actually out we have now started to confuse tolerance with indifference. Indifferences towards also the problems immigrant communities had, and integration or assimilation has never been actually properly defined in the Netherlands. The complexities, of course, were only increased. That a lot of the profile of most of the immigrants is that they even came from deprived areas in their home countries, and there was a great tendency, for example, with family unification, not only to bring children but actually also to bring in marriage partners from the home country rather than marry within the community. So there was a continuous influx of people with little education back home, very little opportunities in the Netherlands to integrate, And that has created tremendous problems, basically, which have more to do with the immigration issue. Of course, if you look at differences between the new communities and say the autochthonous Dutch people, it's really easy to focus on religion because that difference is there.
Yes.
And he plays that up.
Exactly. I have two questions. The first one is really about the other political parties. Because when I was in the Netherlands, I was saying to all the leaders that I was meeting, look, there is a problem here. He is playing the game, he is setting the agenda, and you are following in the footsteps of what he decides as a populist. So what is your political vision for the future of this country? Do you have something? Are you dealing with these people, or are you in fact very passive and not knowing your new citizens, because the Muslims are the new Muslim Dutch citizens, they are the new Dutch citizens. And my perception is that we also have to blame, not only say he is very good, but sometimes ask ourselves, what are the other parties doing?
They're very reactive indeed, and that almost seems to affirm what put Geert Wilders on the political map in the first place, that he represents an alternative to the existing configuration. The old parties have run out of steam, they have no alternatives. We have had grave, economic problems, we have problems with infrastructure, things like that, which Wilders plays on as well. And they have never found the solutions. If he indeed starts to address really controversial issues, the parties are sort of at a loss how to respond to that. And that is the only thing they can do is indeed respond by trying to pander to the same sentiments. But Wilders had the initiative, so they're even being seen of reacting only to that and trying to ingratiate themselves to the voting public.
It's as if he is winning twice, in fact, by setting and then pushing them to be on a defensive or reacting to what he's saying. And this is also why I think what you are saying, which is a deep concern in European countries, it's also a political discussion about the traditional parties and the classical political parties. What do they have to provide, and in which way they are dealing with immigration, with the diversity of cultures and religions. And the political vision, because we were talking about socioeconomic problems, for example. One point that I wanted you to just address, and this is my last question on this, is really when I was in the Netherlands and dealing with Dutch Muslim citizens, I was telling them, look, don't play the victim mentality. You may face and be victims of discrimination, but at the end you are citizens and you have to play your role, to raise your voice and to be vocal and to be constructively visible. What would be your advice as a Dutch citizen to your fellow citizens who have the impression that at the end of the day they are not liked, they are rejected because of the very fact that they are Muslims?
Yeah, that is definitely a very difficult challenge they face there, and the Netherlands at the moment is going through a sea change or even a paradigm shift in the political landscape, and it's very difficult to sort of estimate in which direction it will go and whether it will last. Geert Wilders was not the first one trying this. Before him it was Pim Fortuyn who made a similar effort, and that faded away very quickly. That might be a problem indeed that Geert Wilders faces as well, and some indications are already in the media that with issues even beyond say the Islam issue, which he likes to play up, other things where he is challenged on, like solving the infrastructure and traffic problems, the advocacy groups working in these areas have tried to contact him and get his agenda, but he is probably better at diagnostics, seeing what is wrong in the Netherlands, than that he has a clear agenda. So it may be very difficult at this instance also for those who are targeted, like in first instance in the large segment of people of Muslim origin in the Netherlands, to exactly chart a strategy. But I think they should not be drawn out into an antagonistic debate, although with other events we had 5-6 years ago with the Van Gogh issue, obviously, that it's very easy to get into a very antagonistic debate. I think they should basically continue doing what 95% of the Muslims in the Netherlands are doing, that is putting their kids through school, and go into their job every day.
Yes, and then to avoid falling into the trap of this binary vision and conflicting attitude.
Yes.
I think that during the discussion, and it's quite important just to understand that things are moving in the Netherlands as things are moving in other European countries, and mainly what is essential here is to understand that you have someone who is a clever and a smart politician and playing with fears and emotions and media at the same time, while the reality of coming from other classical and traditional political parties is quite poor as a reaction and not as coming with political vision for the future. And at the end, also something which was said, which I think is quite important, is really to understand that it's a political game. It has not only to do with Islam, it has to do with internal politics, and it's quite important for the Muslims to become citizens and to live with the daily life and to just to reach out to their fellow citizens as Dutch citizens. And I think that these are lessons that we have to extract and understand for other European countries. Well, that's all we have time for. I would like to hear your views on today's subject, so please email us at islamandlife@presstv.co.uk. That's islamandlife@presstv.co.uk. I would like to thank my guest, Dr. Carool, Kersten, and I hope to see you next week, inshallah.